I'm going to start out by reading a verse to you guys, and you all are so familiar with it. You probably have it memorized. Philippians 4:11-13. Not that I speak in regard to need, for I've learned in whatever state I am to be content. I know how to be abased and I know how to abound. Everywhere and in all things, I have learned both to be full and to be hungry, both to abound and to suffer need. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Now, I want to read that verse to you guys in the mirror because you guys know I love the mirror, but it gives a little bit different flavor. This is the mirror of the same passage. Hey, that's how it starts. Hey, don't get me wrong. I'm not hinting for funding. I've discovered my I amness, and I found that I am fully self-sufficient. Whatever the circumstances, I am not defined by abuse or abundance. It might be a different day and a different place, but the secret remains the same. Whether I am facing a feast or a fast, a fountain or a famine, in every situation, I am strong in the one who empowers me from within to be who I am. Now, when I first read that passage, the thing that stuck out to me is that first phrase, not that I speak in regard to need. Not that I speak in regard to need. And I have to ask a question because this is the question I frequently ask myself. And I honestly, y'all, have not even put much thought to it. Oh, because it's become so much a part of my just how I live. Not that I speak in regard to need. How often do we find ourselves speaking in regard to the need? Or praying in regard to the need? Oftentimes, even praying the opposite of a situation or a circumstance because the need is screaming so loudly. And we've whether it's subconscious or conscious, and please, I know y'all know me, you know my heart. This is not coming from a place of judgment or we've been doing it wrong or any of those kinds of things. This is simply things for us to ponder with Father and how he sees it. Okay. But oftentimes the circumstance or the situation is screaming so loud that we begin to pray or speak according to the need or the discomfort, what we perceive as lack, and we either speak, pray, decree, declare the opposite, right? Because after all, that has to be, if this is uncomfortable, that has to be life. That has to be where life resides. And I'm trying to put language to the unspoken reaction response we often have to circumstances or to need. Have you ever considered that the answer to the circumstances, situations, the need is found in not even feeling compelled to speak or pray, decree or declare in any given direction? Until what? Right? Until we know where Father's eternal now is. Because we've learned to speak with authority, right? We've learned to pray with authority. We've learned to decree and declare from and in authority and power. And I agree with all of that. There is nothing wrong with any of that. But from what position are we decreeing, declaring, speaking, praying? Because if it's from the place of this, whatever this need is bad, and this is good, isn't that praying, speaking, decreeing, declaring from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil? Of right, wrong, good, bad, left, right? Because simply praying what we perceive as the good or the life is still from that place of separation. Just like Paul is saying, not that I speak in regard to need. Now, in the translation of it, it's talking about financial, right? That's the picture that is painted there. But it's not necessarily just about that. Do you know that Greek word for content here in this passage is a word that means self-sufficient? I'm not even going to try to pronounce the Greek word, but it means self-sufficient, independent of external circumstances. Independent of external circumstances. Paul is not describing endurance, right? He's not describing endurance or speaking from striving. He's describing embodiment from realization. That is exactly what this verse is about. He is literally speaking from the place, the position, the posture, the absolute knowing embodiment of I am. Paul literally has been awakened to the reality that he is Christ. Paul himself is Christ. I have learned, is what he says here. I have learned is not through external lessons. It's not through the things that circumstances need, changes, shifting situations. That is the learning teaching tool. That's what we've learned. That's what we've been told over the years, over the decades, centuries, that the circumstances around us teach, right? That's not the learning he's talking about. He's talking about the internal, inner remembrance. He's saying here, I've become aware of my I amness, the strength that needs no outside source. There is no outside source that can teach you your I amness. It is that place and space within you that you become aware, that aha moment, the way that Father speaks to each one of us uniquely, that awakens that place within us, those places, the bubbles that pop when you go, oh my gosh, that too, right? Those are the learning pieces, moments. That depth of contentment is the fruit of our awareness that I am the expression of my Father in physical form, just like Christ is. You know, the old paradigm, the paradigm we're all familiar with, says that humanity's spiritual perception has been veiled through the knowledge of good and evil, the consciousness of separation, that dualistic framework that divides life into categories, right? Us and them categories. And that's I use that in a broad brush, us and them. Sinner, saved, holy, unholy, worthy, unworthy, right, wrong, bad, good. All the different ways that duality is framed, mentally framed, or has mentally framed our daily experiences. And oftentimes we even think we framework our experiences from that place of duality, from that place of the law of opposites that keeps consciousness bound to external validation and self-judgment. Am I doing it wrong? Am I working it out? Where did I miss it? In that system, we work out our salvation as if it's apart from us, like we're dealing with it, like we're dealing with something that is broken or we think is broken. Paul talks about this system of duality in Romans 7:15-25. He's actually describing the inner conflict in this way. He says, the good I want to do, I don't do, right? You guys know the passage. But we've learned to see that from a posture of, I haven't fully surrendered to Christ's lordship in my life, or I haven't dealt with all of my sin from generations before me. You guys know the phrases and the systems, right? But I'd like to suggest that all of those ways have been from a vantage point of separation. And we've talked about this so often, not being aware of discerning everything, every circumstance, every situation, every need through the position of I am, because y'all, that is different. It doesn't do away with decreeing and declaring. It doesn't do away with authority. It doesn't do away with power. It simply doesn't allow the need to scream so loudly that you and I are moved to speak from that position of lack and how do I fill it? Because when we see through oneness, through I am, everything and every circumstance is seen and experienced from Father's heart and intention, not from human separation from God places, not from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, not from a place of opposites. Do you all, I don't know about you guys, but I hear, not frequently, but often, let me use that word, people referring to Father's desire or intention as opposite of evil. Do you realize that that framework of thought, of idea, is literally the description of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil? Because Father's heart and intention is not opposite evil. Because evil, just our perception of evil, is from the knowledge of the tree of good and evil. Because when you and I learn to live consciously in complete alignment, as we are discovering, we are remembering, life brings everything into entrainment with itself. From that place of I am, of oneness, there is no double-mindedness. There is no opposite. There is no which one do I choose? I don't know, because I'm experiencing all of this need. And so now I don't know how to pray. I don't know what to do. What's right? What's wrong? What's good? What's bad? Like James 1:8 says, a double-minded man is unstable in all of his ways. That verse, that passage is not simply talking about being indecisive. It includes that in its simplest intention, but from a deeper place of understanding what's being spoken there in James 1:8 is spoken of humanity being divided in consciousness, living between two trees instead of living from the tree of I am. Living from the tree of I am. So when you and I awaken to Christ within I am, those two trees merge. They come into entrainment. Life swallows up everything. Experiential knowledge of good, bad, right, wrong is brought into entrainment with life. What brings life according to Father's design? Knowledge no longer divides, but serves awareness. Life no longer exists outside, but flows from within out. This is actually the harmonization of all things. Or as Nancy states it, her term, the restoration of all things. Heaven and earth, spirit and body, male and female, all vibrating as one sound, in one sound. And I'm not saying that we lose our individuality. That is not what I'm saying. That individuality, that uniqueness is beautiful and perfect. But that uniqueness, that beauty, that individuality is expressed at its fullest capacity, its fullest intention from I am. Colossians 3:11. Christ is in all and is all and in all. Christ is all and in all. Revelations 22:2 says, the tree of life bears fruit on both sides of the river. The tree of life bears fruit on both sides of the river. Do you realize that that's painting a picture of complete and total reconciliation in the place, from the place of I am? The two becoming one. You know, it as we were going about our adventure, Jessica and I were in the trees, which y'all know I love that, my favorite place. And I was just amazed at the trees, just exquisite. And there were so many times that I had to just sit and be in the midst of them. And I was constantly reminded, several different times throughout, how trees so much remind me of the lungs in our body. And this is a conversation Father and I've had for, gosh, probably over 20 years or more. But it just began to unfold within me, the beauty of not only these trees, but our lungs. And then I saw this picture and I realized, wow, there are two lungs, right? Speaking of the two becoming one within the body. Reconciliation. Both sides of the river. Do you realize how many two things we have in our body? Just to name a few. We have two lungs, but they breathe one breath. We have two eyes, but they see one vision. We have two ears, but they perceive one sound. We have two hands, and those two hands act from one will, one choice. Even male, female express the polarity of one divine essence. It is the completeness, male and female, being the perfect expression of one divine essence. The body itself is the living symbol of reconciled duality. Do you realize that? Our body is the living, breathing manifestation of I am. Oneness, the language of oneness, as we've been talking about since Arizona. But when we live from duality, our words reinforce separation. The tree of the knowledge of good and evil, duality. I'm trying to be like Christ. I need to fix this. How do I fix this? This need needs to be answered. What's the answer? I hope one of these days I'll get there. Oneness speaks a different language. Oneness is the language of I am. I am statements, right, Sally? Susie? I am statements align our consciousness. I am whole, or is one example, not becoming whole. I am light. not seeking to be illuminated. I'm not seeking to be enlightened. I am loved. I'm not striving to be accepted. And another last one I came up with, I am strong. Because strength flows from within me. Right? 1 John 4:17 says, as he is, so are we in this world. Or like our verse this morning, Philippians 4:13, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. I am strong. The mirror says it like this: I am strong in the one who empowers me from within to be who I am. Christ within, and y'all just bear with me, hang with me when I make this statement. Christ within is not your helper. What? Christ within is your being. Christ within is your being. Do you realize that we've been taught to see this expression, Christ within? And y'all, I mean, you tell me if I'm wrong, okay? But we've been taught to see this, internally see this as a physical existence of a Christ, another being, if you will, lives within me, occupying space and place within me. Is that true? Jesus lives in my heart, taking up space within me. But do you realize that Christ within is actually speaking of an awareness of your I amness that you haven't yet awakened to, or are in the process of becoming aware of that reality coming into full view? That is Christ within that's being spoken of here. It's not another occupying space. That is why Christ, Yeshua, could say, when you've seen me, you've seen my Father. I and my Father are one. He was not talking about two beings occupying the same one space. He was talking about the multidimensional aspect of who we are that is being expressed in substance. That is the Christ within awakening, expanding, becoming aware of all of the realities of how Father's expression is being expressed from within us. Do you realize that whole thing transcends effort? It does. It transcends effort and only exists in rest, is expressed in rest. Your body is not a hindrance. It literally is the holy field of union, the very substance of oneness expressed. Do you realize that spirit, matter, heaven, earth, all of it, all the things, all meet within you, are all one in you? Every breath harmonizes duality into one sound of divine being. We are literally the place where that picture of entrainment, of harmonization, of realization of where duality comes into life, and life shows duality how to express itself in one sound, one divine being. When you breathe consciously, you're bringing your two lungs, the polarities, into a rhythm with one breath. What is that one breath? Ruach, pneuma in Greek, spirit in English. First Corinthians 6:19 says, do you not know that your body is the temple of the Holy Spirit within you? The breath, the temple of the breath within you. Okay, think about it like that. Do you not know that your body is the temple of breath within you? Colossians 1:27 says, Christ in you, the hope of glory. All of those places that are awakening to your I amness is the hope of glory. You realizing your body is the embodiment and expression of I am. You have no need to escape your humanity. You and I have been given all power and authority to divinize it. You know what divinize it means? I found that word and I loved it. To divinize something means to bring it into full harmony and expression of its divine nature. It's not escape. It's not to escape or to transcend matter. It is to reveal breath within matter, to reveal spirit within matter, to reveal pneuma within matter, to reveal ruach within matter, to make visible the invisible nature of God through embodiment. In the language of Christ consciousness or I amness, to divinize is to allow your Christedness within, to fully express in human form until your entire being realizes there is no separation between the sacred and the natural, between the spirit and the physical. There is no separation. Every aspect of our being has been designed to function and move and sound, resonate as one. Paul said it like this: Christ in you, the hope of glory. Colossians 1:27. The word glory here isn't a distant heavenly light either. It's literally the shining forth of divine essence. In early mystical Christianity, the shining forth of divine essence in form, that process was known as theosis. It was from the Greek word theos, meaning God, and it means to be made divine, not by changing your essence. Theos isn't about changing your essence, changing who you are, changing your identity. Theosis isn't even about, hold on, wait for it, okay? Theosis isn't even about merging with God as if you were once separate. There's so many pictures of that misunderstanding that we could paint, but we're not going to do that, because theosis is about realizing that separation has always been and only ever been an illusion all along, period. 2 Peter 2:1-4 says, you are partakers of the divine nature. I am a partaker of the divine nature. So divinize, therefore, is to partake of what you already are, to let the divine essence that you are permeate every layer of being, every thought, every feeling, your entire body, every action, every reaction. How many times have we talked about our actions, reaction, and response? I am is the very essence of bringing all of those reactions, responses, thoughts, feelings, your entire body, reminding yourself in every aspect, I am. I don't respond to need. I don't have to speak to need until I know what I am is saying, what I know from that place of I am. First Corinthians 6:19 says, do you not know that your body is the temple of breath, of pneuma, of ruach? Romans 8:11, the spirit who raised Christ from the dead will also give life to your mortal bodies. Do you know that if life is given to the body, not away from it, it's not given away from it. Life is given to the body. The spirit doesn't discard the human, it divinizes it. The breath doesn't discard human, it divinizes it. Resurrection wasn't about escape from flesh. Sorry, stumbling on my words. Resurrection wasn't about escaping from flesh. It was always about the illumination of flesh, of substance, of human in breath, in spirit, in ruach, in pneuma. So in that same pattern, our daily lives, our breath, our senses, our relationships, our comings and goings are the canvas where God paints the image of I am. When awareness, knowledge, and breath, pneuma, life, harmonize in I am. That is the place where duality, good, bad, right, wrong, no longer exists. Because heaven and earth, right here in body form, that's the place where heaven and earth kiss, where heaven and earth become one, where heaven and earth, not because they haven't been, but the realization of oneness is made apparent and known experientially. To divinize your being means to bring even the most ordinary aspects of human experience into entrainment with divine consciousness. To divinize your being means to bring even the most ordinary aspects of human experience into entrainment with divine consciousness. Y'all, what are the common ordinary aspects of your human life? Work, rest, emotions, hunger, travel, friendships, grocery shopping, coffee. I had to throw that in. The most ordinary aspects. How many times have you yourself, and you don't have to answer, you don't have to put your hand up or anything like that, but have had either internal conversations or external while you're talking to somebody else, where you're going, I so want more. I just want to be raising the dead, healing the sick. I want to be doing all the things. And they come and go, and they're fleeting, and they're happening, but not consistently. And I'm so tired of it. I want the more. Right? Anybody else? But have we stopped to consider that quite possibly the more starts in the ordinary, the most common? Like understanding that when you go for coffee, you're literally shifting everything. When you're grocery shopping or getting gas in your car, when you're at work, when you're just hanging out on the back porch, listening to the birds, when your emotions are from joyful to sorrow, when the most ordinary aspects of our human experience are brought into entrainment, into alignment, into harmony with the frequency, the sound of I am. When I see I am in even the most ordinary aspects of my life, I dare to say, experientially, some of my most profound aha experiences with I am have been in the most ordinary, unexpected, common aspects of my life. Things that they seem so nothing. Truly. But we've learned a different structure because religion says that only those things that are more, the greater things, can come when we're doing certain things. Like when we're having a big meeting and we call hundreds, thousands, tens forward to be healed, to raise the dead, to cast out demons. And I'm not minimizing any of those things because they're exquisitely beautiful and full of life. But religion has said that's how it happens. And so we see that and go, oh, okay, that's how it happens. And I'm not doing that. Are you doing that? I don't see myself doing that consistently. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm missing it. I'm not doing enough. I'm not making myself available enough. I'm not laying hands on enough people in a day. Maybe that's why it's not happening for me. Maybe I'm not spending enough time reading my Bible. So that's why it's not happening for me. Maybe I haven't memorized enough scriptures this morning or this week or whatever. And so that's why it's not happening for me. Maybe I haven't spent enough time in communion. So that's why it's not happening for me. Okay, so I want to invite everybody to let all that go because all of that is false. That is part of a religious structure that keeps us on a hamster wheel, striving for something we don't think we have, striving for something we don't think a place we aren't at yet. We're not mature enough yet. We can't go to the certain places that certain people do because we haven't been mature enough yet. All of that's false. I am is the sound, the language of one. And I am, as I experience I am in the most ordinary aspects, common aspects of my life, seeing I am expressed in those moments that I'm the only one present to know, expands. Y'all, expands in ways we've not even contemplated or considered. And it bleeds into every other aspect of your life. It does. It's so intense. It so becomes a part of your conscious, always, everything, that everything you do is the expression of I am. And you consciously are aware of it. That everything you think is from the position of I am. Every reaction, response, every word that comes out of your mouth can only be framed from the place of I am. Because that is us. So eating becomes communion. It's not an event. It's not a thing. Eating becomes communion. union all the time. Breathing becomes the prayer. Breathing is the actual continual constant prayer and what's the word, Father? The embodiment of oneness, of union. Not a special thing that you set aside and do for certain circumstances and situations or needs. Breathing becomes the prayer. Movement becomes worship. Movement becomes worship. Have you ever just whirled and swirled as you're walking along going somewhere? I have. And to some people's chagrin, but whatever. Movement becomes worship. And our relationships become the reflection of oneness. Because it begins to show us, we begin to realize consciously that I am speaks I am. And that entrainment, that harmonizing sound, that language of oneness is expressed. It can't help it. It is. Yeshua didn't come to show us what God could do as man. We've been taught that our whole lives. He came to show us what man has always been. And even greater when we're fully realized or aware of our I amness. What does that look like? When man is fully aware of his I amness, of our I amness. Habakkuk 2:14 says it best. The earth shall be filled with the knowledge of the glory of the Lord as the waters cover the sea. That glory is not descending from above as if we don't have it, as if we are not it. We're not having to look up and wait for it to descend somewhere, like a city that the picture we've been taught to see. It isn't that, y'all. It's emerging from within humanity. And I mean it by that word, humanity, all of humanity emerging from within us. That is transfiguration. The shining forth of the inner light from the outer form through the outer form. And this outer form is transfigured. Yeshua, we read about that happening to him on Mount Transfiguration. And what happened? His entire body began to vibrate in tune, in entrainment, in harmonization with breath, with ruach, with pneuma. What does it say in Matthew 17:2? His face shone like the sun. His face shone like the sun. 2 Corinthians 3:18 says this. We all, let that settle. We all means all, nothing missing, nothing broken. We all with unveiled faces, beholding as in a mirror the glory of the Lord, are being transformed into the same image from glory to glory. That transformation is not from outside influences. making right or wrong choices, good or bad choices. Nothing externally, no need externally that throws a fit for your attention can cause transformation. What causes transformation? What causes transfiguration? The aha I am within, shining forth, shining out of from within you. When Paul says, I can do all things in Philippians 4, he's not talking about doing it in time. It's not about time, years, months, days, weeks. He's revealing being the I am in the eternal now. And everything that is brought to my attention, I am addressing it from the place of the eternal now of Father's heart, from the place of I am. I'm not speaking because the need is screaming, the circumstance is screaming, the situation is screaming, and I'm trying to pick the best decision or choice based on the options I have in front of me. Because the options I have in front of me are all dictated by time. Am I making myself clear? That is not how you and I move, live, and have our being. You and I function from the eternal now, where I am is seated, positioned, is in oneness, from the language of one. And from that place, if words are needed, that is what we release. Because that I am, that eternal now I am, does not contain, is not from a framework of becoming, eventually, I will be. None of that. It speaks from wholeness, from one, from life. If words are needed. And what did we talk about when I was in Arizona? Our bones, the very bones of our physical human body structure, are continually nonstop speaking, releasing the sound of one. So have you ever stopped to think, oh, wait a second, maybe I don't need to respond, pray, speak, decree, declare from here, or even what I've learned from a structure of religion, but I need to listen first and allow that sound that is being released to transform what is presenting itself in front of me. I may use words, syllables. I may not. Maybe words and syllables aren't needed. Maybe simply the sound that I am is all that is needed in that moment. To live from I am is to live from the eternal present, where nothing is lacking. To live from I am is to live from the eternal present, where nothing is lacking. Or in Kym's words, nothing missing, nothing broken. There's no striving. There's no striving, only unfolding. Only unfolding. Why? Because I am the harmony of heaven and earth. I am the silence beyond duality. I am strength from within. I am one. I am the language of oneness.